We've even gotten calls to our hotline asking if you're selling paper.
Actual paper.
Or if you're a restaurant.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly.
All of this didn't come together overnight, Jama, to be completely honest with you. Entrepreneurship is not something that you should decide to become overnight. Right. Starting is actually not hard. Sustaining that momentum is the hardest part. මේ නිකන් ගෙදරට වෙලා ඉඳගෙන ලැප්ටොප් එකක් ඉස්සරහා හිටියා කියලා entrepreneur කියලා Instagram bio එකේ දැම්ම කියලා entrepreneur වෙන්නේ නැහැ. When Elon Musk is calling himself an entrepreneur, if your bio just says entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur.
Welcome back to Power Moves. Can you believe it's already been 3 episodes and today is the 4th episode of Power Moves. As always, I am Jayamal Ratnayaka bringing you the latest episode of Power Moves. Today, our guest hails from the apparel industry. And this particular brand has been making waves in Sri Lanka's apparel and clothing industry, particularly famous amongst the youth in Sri Lanka, and it also has a very quirky name, so I'm sure you would like to know the backstory of that name. I will ask our guest about it. So without further ado, let me announce our guest today. He is Dilen Fernando, co-founder and managing director of Pepper Street. Dilen,
hi,
welcome to Power Moves.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here.
Certainly. How are you doing these days?
I am doing very busy with a lot of things,
right.
But we're doing great things. I mean, less sleep, more work, but great things.
The grind continues.
Grind continues as always.
Nice. Okay, so let's cut to the chase. Let's talk about Pepper Street.
Yeah.
Pepper Street is a very unique name for an apparel brand, right? If someone was to ask or mention Pepper Street to me, I would think it's a shop that sells condiments.
Yeah, I've gotten it a lot, yes.
Right? Okay, I'm sure you've
We've even gotten calls to our hotline asking if you're selling paper.
Actual paper.
Or if you're a restaurant.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. So based on all of that, can you explain why the name Pepper Street? Was there an interesting story, any sort of backstory as to why Pepper Street came to be the name and face of your brand?
So technically, Jayamal, to start off with, thank you for having me here.
No worries.
And what I really wanted to do with Pepper Street was initially, before the name came out, what we wanted to create was a culture. And we wanted to create something beyond just clothes, beyond just whatever that we're offering, beyond just a normal product. And what happened was we actually went forward and we thought, okay, if we call it a street, maybe everyone will think that we're trying to create a culture.
Right.
You know, if you take a specific street that you like in Sri Lanka, which is around here, you will know, like, you know, you go there to have fun, you go there to, you know, spend time with your friends, to hang out, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. So which is the same image that we wanted to create with Pepper Street.
Right.
And which is what we continue to do on a daily basis, even with our products, with our product launches, with our community, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. So even to a point where we want our community to be friends with each other, you know, and even on a Black Friday to hang out with each other. Right. If you're coming to Pepper Street, you come to have fun. Once we had a launch called Cosmic Adventures, and we literally had a DJ inside the store. You know?
Oh, wow, okay. And a bit of a twist there.
Yeah, and it was fun because like everyone was coming, jamming to the music, you know, buying whatever they wanted to buy. Some people didn't even want to buy stuff. They just want to come because of the atmosphere. Yeah, the atmosphere, the vibe and all of that. So, which is why we came up with the name Pepper Street. And at the same time, always, you know, this name Pepper always, you know, kept ringing in my head before we started Pepper Street. Okay. There was no specific reason, to be honest. There was no like a massive spiritual enlightenment in terms of me coming up with a brand name. Okay. But really the image, the idea that we wanted to get across to the world is that we are trying to create something more than just a product.
I see.
And that was the beginning and the birth of this name.
Of Pepper Street.
Yeah.
So creating a sense of community.
A community. And that was the most, and that's still our most important part of our brand. You know, we always speak about community. In fact, recently we had a store opening at Colombo City Center, and who opened the store was not us, was not the founders. It was the customers. right? So in doing that, we didn't want it to be like this emotional thing, but we just really wanted to say, look, we are here because of y'all, we are here because of our community, and we are trying to give back to y'all as
the
well.
True custodians of your brand.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So before all of this happened, and before you and your partner embarked in this entrepreneurial journey in fashion, no less, where did that idea, that spark come from? Did it come when you were schooling? Did it come when you were in uni? How did all of this come together?
All of this didn't come together overnight, Jamal, to be completely honest with you. If anyone watching this thinks that, you know, this idea to become an entrepreneur has to come when you wake up tomorrow in the morning, is wrong. Because if I'm taking the long road to that question, to answer that question, entrepreneurship is not something that you should decide to become overnight.
Right.
You know, because it's a lifelong commitment.
It's a marathon.
It's a marathon. It's a long run, right? So because of that, honestly, I am so glad that this idea of getting into entrepreneurship when we embarked on this journey was not something that was born overnight. It's something that really resonated in my mind ever since I was a child, ever since I was in school, where I was looking for things that I couldn't find. And I wanted to create something that I wish that existed, you know, and actually Sri Lanka, even during the times that we were kids, we couldn't afford like good clothing, right? Certainly. And we used to watch all these movies, Adam Sandler wearing the 3/4 shorts and the oversized tees. And LeBron James wearing the Jordans. You know, that culture didn't really come to Sri Lanka. And everyone was very traditional in terms of their product offering. It's because people didn't understand the generation that was going to come, which was us. This is us, right? So because of that, I realized, look, I wish that there was a clothing brand like this. Then the idea sparked saying, why don't I create it? Right? And since we were into manufacturing in the first place, where I started my journey in manufacturing, in clothing manufacturing, we had the entire landscape and the knowledge to do this, because we know what's right, we know the right quality of fabrics, we know the right quality of products, the kind of styles, the fits, the specs, all kinds of stuff we had. So because of that, it was just a walk in the park initially. Now it's hard, right?
Sustaining that success is
hard. Starting is actually not hard. Sustaining that momentum is the hardest part, to be honest with you. So going back to your question, there was no specific spark in terms of this journey, but it's something that I wanted to fix for myself, right? And then I realized there has to be another million people like me, right, who probably likes the clothing that I will design, or who will probably like the culture that we're trying to create, and that's exactly what happened.
You're trying to get like-minded people around you and your brand.
Because technically, if you're like me, I'm the best person to sell something to you, because I understand you and you understand me, right? So I'm not trying to sell something that I don't like, or that I myself will not wear, right? So because of that, we give a lot of thought to the material that we use, the fabrics that we use, skin-friendly material, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. Maybe we can speak about it later.
Definitely. So being in fashion, launching a fashion brand is not an easy feat at all, and no less in Sri Lanka. And very quickly, before I go on with my question, when did Pepper Street actually start operations?
Pepper Street started operations in 2020.
In 2020.
Yes, before COVID.
Right before COVID, and then Sri Lanka experienced a bit of bad luck along the way, and still Pepper Street has endured, and in 2025 you all are thriving. So before going into all of that, being in the competitive space of fashion, of all those top retail brands, punching above your weight, and also competing with similar Sri Lankan brands that have come out, athleisure wear, comfort wear, so on. How did Pepper Street lay that foundation to attract a certain segment of customers from the more established brands and the Sri Lankan brands that were also competing with you?
That's a very good question, because initially when Pepper Street started, we were trying to offer a product base that a lot of people didn't have, and I believe that it was that dopamine kind of hit that everyone had when we were launching our products, because initially no one was buying, right? And I realized, look, no one was buying, no one wanted to wear our brand, right? Because it's a startup, right? So I realized, okay, why don't we just give the products that people want, but that we want to design as well. And initially what we did was we created products that people liked, and we created a foundation, not only based on the product, but based on every single other aspect as well. Okay, so maybe it can be customer service, it can be culture, it can be, customer support. Customer service and customer support are two different things, which is why I mentioned it separately. And like how someone in our community would feel when they wear it, whether they will feel a sort of energy, whether they're trying to express themselves wearing our clothing. That was the whole point of this, laying this foundation. And at the same time, we did things that we can do. We didn't do anything that we can't do. We didn't go for massive investments. We didn't go for massive bank loans. We bootstrapped everything. We reinvested all the money we earned. So it required a lot of discipline as well.
Financial discipline.
For years. It's not something that happened. It's not something that we did for a month or two. It's something that we did for years.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that was a very good answer, and it gave me the entrance to my next question. Now, when Sri Lanka was going through an economic downturn in 2020, then 2022, and so on, when it comes to disposable income, one of the first or the primary items that a certain customer or a consumer would cut off would be clothing, because there are far greater requirements in their day-to-day needs, right? Against such a backdrop, from 2022 to 2024, until things got a bit better, how did you all ensure the sustainability of the business to make sure that your products were still moving amongst customers? And what sort of investments did you make? How did you ensure scalability? Because I'm sure even investors who were interested in your brand would have held back because the country wasn't doing so well. So how was the scalability and investment angle of things during the hard times? Because during easy times, when the economy is thriving, well, you might be able to get a brand across. But then when a country is going through an economic downturn and a startup, no less, is working in that country, how do you get the necessary investments and ensure that your business operation continues?
I'm going to answer that question in a very opposite kind of manner, which anyone would expect. Actually, I'm honestly on a mission to communicate to the world, communicate to Sri Lankan entrepreneurs about this slogan, this tagline that I live for. And it's actually making hard things normal. Making hard a norm. So you said that when usually it will be easier when the economy is doing well. I would say it's easier when the economy is not doing well. It's not because of anything else. It's not because people are going through a hard time. It's just because there's not a lot of people thinking of growth and sustainability during that kind of a time. Right? So what happened to Pepper Street was initially honestly, when COVID hit and all of that, we were also gone. We didn't know how to sustain. We didn't even know how. We had so many employees. We didn't even know how to pay their salaries. But because we operated for a little while previous years, we had the capability to pay salaries and just survive. But our goal was survival. While a lot of people didn't do anything, our goal was survival. So when we come out of this, we'll probably be the only one standing. Right? So we actually monetized that situation, and we said, by the time, it's all about forecasting. We said by the time COVID is over, a lot of international brands are going to be out of the country, right? So, and the international brands that are in the country will be really expensive because the dollar literally went from 150 to 300. All right. So if a t-shirt was 5,000, it will become 10,000 by the end of COVID. So we decided we'll give people value. We'll give them a t-shirt for 2,500.
We'll grab that segment.
We'll grab that segment because that segment is literally gonna go out, right? So we decided we'll give the same product at a greater value so that they will continue to buy. Disposable income depends on how much value a person would put on your product, right? Even if you're selling the most unnecessary thing, let's say this is a mouse pad, right? If you're selling this mouse pad, to me, I'm not a gamer. So I will not spend my disposable income on this. But if someone else is a hardcore gamer, the first thing he will buy is this.
Definitely.
So really what you need to do is, what all of us need to do is create products that scream value. Create products that scream quality, affordability. Look, you can look good and at the same time you can buy it for the price you can afford.
A reasonable price.
Reasonable price,
So since Pepper Street started, you have been leading your own team along with your partner, and you all have now scaled up to where you have multiple operations in Sri Lanka, you're looking to go overseas and so on. How has your role as a leader evolved over time? I know it's a learning curve because when you started, I'm sure you didn't know 1% of what you know now.
Of course.
And how has your leadership role evolved in time, with time rather, to lead this team and to develop Pepper Street?
So it's been 10 years since I decided to actually be a leader.
Okay.
So I started when I was 17, literally 17, moving on to 18.
Yeah.
So
Right out of school.
right out of school. And when I was 17, I didn't have anyone to lead. So I first started leading myself.
Okay.
Right? I didn't have anyone to push me, right? So first, before you plan on leading other people, you need to start leading yourself.
You need discipline.
You need discipline. You need, if you want to be an entrepreneur, man, trust me, මේ නිකන් ගෙදරට වෙලා ඉඳගෙන ලැප්ටොප් එකක් ඉස්සරහා හිටියා කියලා entrepreneur කියලා Instagram bio එකේ දැම්ම කියලා entrepreneur වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේ entrepreneur කියන වචනේ, is it okay if I speak in Sinhala? This word called entrepreneur has a lot of weight to it. And you can't, when Elon Musk is calling himself an entrepreneur, if your bio just says entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. But what I'm saying is, first you start leading yourself. Next, you start leading other people. But I had a weakness.
Okay.
I'm a guy who micromanages.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
So if someone is working for me, I want to do that person's work also.
Right. Okay. And that's not the best trait to have.
And that's not the best trait to have. So what I did was I consciously got rid of that trait, right? But it later on, right now, since we have a lot of people that are looking into different aspects of the company, right now it's a strength for me. Because usually for about 4 years, I really went on a conscious decision where I said I'm not going to micromanage. I'm going to give this person this job. If he doesn't perform, I will hold him accountable.
Yes.
And then later on, I decided now I have to show them that I know what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
So if someone can't pack the clothes, I will go there and pack them. Right?
Okay.
That way, that person will feel bad. And then, sir,
you lead by example.
Exactly. So there are, if you say the leadership as an evolving factor, I would say there are different traits of leadership that should come out of you during certain seasons of your company. And that doesn't mean you should be one type of leader for the entire span of time. You have to probably, this season, I have to decide to be a leader like this. Right. For this season, I have to decide to be a leader like this. Okay. Maybe one day when Pepper Street goes, I don't know, global and public or whatever, I mean, I should be an entirely different person. So it's just that this leadership role as an entrepreneur should be embedded into you, and you should know when to adapt.
And you should be versatile.
And you should know when you need to change yourself.
Okay.
It's like Kanye West. Like, he's one person at one time and another person at another time. But some say it's something wrong with him.
Disorder, but
But still, it's something like that. Your character needs to change based on the season. Right? So,
Understood. So, when you were growing and developing Pepper Street, every company has its own unique culture and values. What are the cultures and values that you promoted amongst your clients, rather your employees, when you were developing Pepper Street? And to this day, what are those foundational cultures and values that you guys uphold?
So, since we were in manufacturing, we are in manufacturing and we are in retail as well. Two different business models, so two different cultures. But to be honest, the two people that really struggle to be in one culture and in another is myself and my partner, because both of us are involved in both companies. Yes, but in terms of culture, there's 5 things that I really follow in terms of Pepper Street. And first thing is obviously creativity. Second thing is obviously consistency. Third, we follow a lot of we need to have perseverance. Fourth thing, always respect each other. And fifth thing is peace. Because why I kept it for the fifth thing is because without peace, the initial 4 will not happen. Right? So because of that, we always push to give. Sometimes I'm saying, if someone in the Pepper Street team is watching this, I know you will think sometimes there is no peace, but that's what we try for.
To spur them on, exactly.
And that's what we push for. Yes. So maybe when they're working, if you're peaceful, you'll be creative. If you're peaceful, you'll be consistent. And I always tell everyone who works for me, works for the company, who works for Pepper Street, and who I know, consistency is the key. It's not anything else. If you're just,
not rocket science.
It's not rocket science. If you're selling the stupidest product in the world, if you're selling even a fidget spinner, right? If you're consistent at it, you'll sell.
There'll come a time where it takes off.
Exactly. So that's the most important word, I think.
Most important thing.
Yeah.
So coming from that to some pieces of advice to aspiring Sri Lankans who want to be an entrepreneur like you, to build their own brand, but not just young Sri Lankans, but anyone really who is watching today's episode, how would you advise them to stop being overwhelmed, to stop thinking that something is beyond their capabilities, and to just go out there and start what they want to start?
What I always say is, look, by the way, I want to disclaim, I want to say I am also still learning. I'm also in the process of,
Figuring things out.
Just because I come up here and speak doesn't mean I have figured everything else out.
Yes.
So, but according to the past decade of my industry experience, the thing that I really want to say is the fact that you need to start with what you have. Right? But focus on what you don't have. Right? Okay. It's something that I always follow. People say always be grateful for what you have. Be grateful. So being grateful and being satisfied are two different things. Right? You can be grateful for what you have, but you have to never be satisfied. Because if you're satisfied and grateful at the same time,
it becomes complacency.
Then it becomes satisfaction and gratitude at the same time is your comfort zone.
You become complacent and you don't want to.
And you don't want to. You say for the next 40 years, you say, I'm happy sitting on this desk.
Yes.
So you will not even get up out of that desk. Right? So what I say is, start with what you have, but focus on what you don't have.
Which is what I feel has happened to a lot of Sri Lankan brands, where they have hit phenomenal peaks and successes, but after a while, it just plateaus. There's no up from there.
It's honestly, Jamal, because Sri Lankans believe that that doing what everyone else is doing is the only way. And that's not true. Because Sri Lanka, out of all the other markets, you know what I tell? Most of my friends are in Australia. As usual, everybody goes to Australia. Exactly. You know what I tell them? I say, bro, you go to Australia, like literally they have figured everything out. But Sri Lanka, there's so much of figuring out to be done.
There's a lot of potential.
Right? So that means there's a lot of potential. Right? So, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. If you're doing the same thing that I'm doing, that's going to be a little tough on you. And if I'm doing the same thing someone else is doing, that's going to be tough for me, right? So I always constantly, my brain never stops working, man. When I'm showering, when I'm asleep, when I don't know, even when I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about what new thing can I do, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, my wife always says, maybe you have this, I don't even know what to call it, ADHD. Yeah. Maybe you have this, maybe you have that. Yeah. Your brain is never taking a rest. Yeah. Even now, recently we went on a vacation and she was like, even now you're reading a book about business. Yeah. And then I'm like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to switch off.
Get out from that.
Yeah. Maybe I also need to learn.
It's probably part of your archetype, you just constantly want to absorb knowledge.
And knowledge. And I even read like a billboard that's on the road to see what that guy is doing. If I go to a restaurant, I ask them how much is the service charge, what's the revenue, all of that. So it's honestly not hard, but it's something that you need to push into your character. And that is what a lot of Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, as a fellow entrepreneur, guys, I am also figuring it out, but as a fellow entrepreneur, if we do have an entrepreneur movement or whatever we call it, I would say let's build a Sri Lanka that we wish we had, a Sri Lanka that man, trust me, youth needs to come together. Youth needs to come together, because honestly, I don't see any youth making a big impact, including myself. Maybe I'm trying, right? If 100 people try, maybe 10 people will succeed.
Maybe those voices just need to be amplified.
Exactly, it needs to be amplified, and we need to give them a platform.
Right.
And at the same time, we need to step up and say, let's not leave this country, let's build it. There's a nostalgic advertisement that I always think of. I'm sure you know it, because when we were kids, when we were 7 years old, I also always listen to it. Heta Davase Veerayo, So
a friend of ours was acting in that also.
Yes. So I get goosebumps every time I listen to that. I have it on my phone. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I have it on my phone.
It's very inspirational.
So the reason why I brought that up was because this thing that you mentioned, how we can come out of this problem is we have to make this hard things a norm. Right? That way,
facing challenges,
because if you think of people who had done something great in this country, there are people who actually faced challenges and overcame them, not people who gave excuses about the challenges they have.
Yes.
So I believe that if we actually get together and make an impact in whatever that we are doing in this country, it's in no time Sri Lanka will be in another dimension altogether.
Okay, so talking about taking challenges head on, talking about facing all the obstacles you have, scaling up and not being satisfied with where you are, talking about the brand Pepper Street, where do you envision Pepper Street being, say, in another 5 years? What's your vision?
In another 5 years, Jamal, I'll probably want to be one of the most respected brands in South Asia. And at the same time, go global as well. So that's the main purpose, because we want to take this out of Sri Lanka. It's not because we are not grateful for what's happening in Sri Lanka. We are forever grateful. Obviously, because where we are today is also because of our fellow Sri Lankan community.
And the trust they have placed
exactly, and the trust they have placed in our products. But at the same time, there's something beyond this. And Sri Lanka is slowly moving out of this whole manufacturing age, and it's a no-brainer. And a lot of factories are closing down and all of that. So maybe we can actually take a couple of retail brands out to Sri Lanka. Maybe someone else can build another Facebook.
I see.
I wouldn't do it. I don't. I can't. I don't know tech to
save
my soul.
Industry,
But maybe another Nike will come out of Sri Lanka. Maybe another Lululemon will come out of Sri Lanka. But it's the future of Sri Lanka. And we need to get into the B2C market rather than focusing on B2B, because retail brand is always an asset. And if Nike stops working with a factory in Sri Lanka, the factory will have nowhere to go. But Nike has multiple options, right? I'm not mentioning anything in a bad way, but what I'm trying to say is that since we are moving out of this B2B manufacturing age out, that was the 90s. 90s, we were doing really well in terms of manufacturing. 2000s, yes, of course. But the landscape has changed, right? If I was 26-year-old in the 90s, I'll probably be running a factory, not a retail brand. But, again, seasons. So I believe that we need to take whatever we are doing out of Sri Lanka, and that is where I see Pepper Street going as well.
Nice, great. So very quickly, I want to ask you, beyond recognition, the numbers that you produce through Pepper Street and the widespread recognition that you get, what does success truly mean to you? One day, when you look back at your life and all that you achieve, where would you define success is?
That's a very hard question. But but in terms of success, Jamal, I consider being rich and being wealthy two different things. Being rich is you have money in the bank account, but you're not healthy. You don't have a good family life. You're sick. And that is not something that I think of as success. I want to be wealthy, right? Wealthy as in, I want to pick someone else up. I want to be able to tell another 20-year-old, look, man, this is possible. I want to be able to go home to my family. I want to be able to be healthy. Those kind of things are very important. And at the same time, have freedom. Because I consider money as freedom. I don't consider money as money, right? I mean, for an instance, recently one of my cars broke down and I started using cabs. But then I realized, man, using cabs is so easy, so convenient than having your own car,
so much
right?
freedom.
And up to this day, I'm using cabs, right? So, which is why I'm saying, even if you don't have a lot of money, that doesn't mean you're not successful, or that doesn't mean you're poor, right? You can be wealthy, and I believe personally, to me, success means being wealthy. Having all these aspects in life, a perfect balance. And again, I'm telling, if you're planning on starting a business, don't focus on balance, right? Because if you don't have anything to balance in your scale, there's no point of focusing on balance. First, you get the ball rolling, and then focus on having a holistic overall
outlook on life,
rather
than just chase behind profits and money.
And of course, it's this whole hustle grind culture is really making people sick, including myself. I'm not joking. So I don't think it's worth it. I don't think no amount of money that you can make is worth your health.
I see.
Right? So what I would say is, obviously focus on whatever you're doing, but focus on the others as well. All right. Focus on a time where you can close your eyes and think about, things that you can be grateful for. Don't always keep going, oh, I do that, I do that, I do this. 4 cups of coffee,
It's so be wealthy in spirit, wealthy in connections, wealthy in affection and the love that you get.
And friends, man, you can't be alone. Today when I was coming, I saw a meme. There's a reason why Lamborghinis have 2 seats. It's because it's meant for just 2 people. I mean, okay, it'll motivate you, but trust me, motivation will only take you 2 weeks max.
So far.
It's discipline that will keep you going, and discipline requires a lot of balance.
Understood. So, Dilen Fernando, co-founder and managing director of Pepper Street, was our guest on episode 4 of Power Moves. Shared a lot of key insights, especially to all those budding entrepreneurs and everyone who is aspiring to be an entrepreneur, and about life in general, striking the perfect balance, never being satisfied with where you are, always striving to do better, to do more each day. Dilen, rather. Thank you. You have to get it right. It's Dilen.
It's
not
Dilen.
Dilen.
It's
in case you see him on the street, it's Dilen.
If you say Dilen, I will not look back.
Exactly.
I will not respond.
So Dilen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We hope to see you on another episode of either Power Moves or any other show that Newsfirst puts out.
Maybe I can read some news.
Yes. Let's put that up to the leadership and see. That's up to my boss. So we hope to see you soon. We wish you all the best with Pepper Street, from
thank you very much.
Going big in Sri Lanka to going global and capturing the world's markets.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for joining us, and take care.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And that's the way it was on Power Moves. We'll see you again with a new episode.